Today, we're going to talk about great guy, but no chemistry. Should I see him again? The short answer. Actually, this isn't going to be a short answer, and I'm going to be sharing 7 factors you're definitely going to want to take into consideration when it comes to choosing a life partner, choosing someone you want to connect with. Now, not every man or woman you meet on a first date you're going to be attracted to. I'm sure many of you have experienced going out on a first date and feeling zero chemistry, no spark, maybe even feeling a level of ick or something like that. And I get that. And sometimes we leave thinking, God, that was a nice man, that was a nice woman, but no spark, as I said before. And then weeks later, maybe we're lying in bed awake wondering, what the heck did happen there? What did I miss? Shouldn't I have seen this sooner? And I'm going to dive into this conversation today. So I want to start with the first factor to consider is why no spark isn't a deal breaker, why no spark isn't a deal breaker. That a first date vibe isn't always the truth. Let me repeat that. That first date vibe isn't always the truth. Sometimes attraction is like a pilot light. It needs time to fuel to burn bright. Okay. Now, I think it's important that I take a moment to share something very personal in my life. So you're going to get a man's point of view here. And many of you who've been following me for a little while know I've been publicly sharing that I'm in a significant relationship right now. In fact, I've been dating someone for almost 3 months. Now, I said significant relationship. This is something that I genuinely believe has some real serious potential. Now, this isn't me necessarily getting ahead of myself. It's just I feel like we're a good fit for one another. And yet, believe it or not, on our first meeting, there was no chemistry. Okay, I just want to start. We mutually did not have chemistry. So allow me a few minutes to share why no spark or no chemistry is a deal breaker. And then I'm going to go on to share 6 more factors you may want to consider of whether or not you should see a man or woman again if you're not feeling that spark, no chemistry on the first meeting. Okay, now in my particular case, we connected through 3 separate dating apps. So let's go back in time a little bit. About almost a year ago, we connected on a dating app called Bumble. Some of you know Bumble. And we connected on that app. She had messaged me first, and we had a text exchange that went back and forth a few times. But for whatever reason, it fizzled out. I'm sure this has happened to you. You've connected with someone, you've communicated a little bit, and it fizzled out. That's what happened in our case. It did fizzle out. Now, it could have been I was communicating with someone else. She could have been communicating with someone else. I don't remember the particulars of what happened, but it fizzled out. That's kind of a natural byproduct of using dating apps. And I want to encourage you all not to get overly frustrated. This happens. There could be some genuine reasons, why this might happen. But it fizzled out. And then for whatever reason, 3 months later, I saw her on another dating site called Match.com. And since I recognized her, I recognized we had a brief exchange. I wrote her a message saying, hey, do you remember me? We spoke before. And I think she wrote me back. I can't remember the details, quite frankly. But for whatever reason, that fizzled out. Okay. And then fast forward about 6 months after that exchange, she messaged me on Hinge. Okay. So I just want you to know, ladies, she messaged the first time, I messaged the next time, she messaged the next time. Okay. And we connected and had a brief exchange via the, app feature. And then we decided to have a phone call. Now, in truth, I wasn't really sure she was my type. I wasn't sure if this was a good fit, but I just thought she was an interesting person. And I'm sure she felt the same about me. So we got on a phone call on a Saturday. I remember it was around 2 p.m. And we had an interesting chat. And it turns out about an hour or 2 into the phone call, we recognized that we had some mutual friends. We had some friends that mutual friends. And in that mutual friendship, we go, God, that's kind of cool that we have these mutual friends. So at that point, we decided to meet for breakfast the next morning. We met for coffee, basically, but it was at a nice hotel overlooking the marina here in Los Angeles, Marina del Rey. And during that meeting, we said hello, we gave each other a hug, we were sitting across from one another. I remember we got into an interesting conversation about dating and relationships in today's marketplace. Again, we had mutual friends that were in relationship. We knew many couples together, so we had this interesting connection. And from that space, we ended up spending about 5 hours together, had an interesting chat. But I will tell you this. I started to feel a sense of neutrality. I started to feel like I was putting her in the friend zone. I can't tell you why that happened, but I was finding myself being attracted to her from a friendship basis, but not a romantic basis. And when we said goodbye, we gave each other a hug. We went on our way. Again, this was a 5-hour conversation. It started at 10. I believed it ended around 2 or 3. And we went our separate ways. We texted each other, had a nice time. It was an interesting conversation. And then, I can't remember what happened that following Monday. I can't remember if there was a message or two, but on the Tuesday after we met on a Sunday, she messaged me and I just called her up on the phone. And during the conversation, she said, "Well, what do you think, Jonathan?" I said, "I got to be honest with you. I'm feeling kind of neutrality." And she said, "Me too. I'm feeling kind of neutral in this space." And we go, "Gosh, that's kind of weird. We check a lot of boxes with one another. We're both relatively attractive people in our own rights. And yet in that moment, we felt a sense of neutrality." And next thing you know, we spent 5 hours talking about how confused we are, how we can check all these boxes, but still feel neutral from a spark perspective. And we kind of both said we're not feeling chemistry for one another. Okay, ending that phone call 5 hours later. The next morning, I'm like, God, I like this person. So I sent her a text message and she sent me a text message back. And then we just jumped on a phone call to chat a little bit. This was, I remember in the morning. By the way, she's retired. I work like I'm semi-retired. And we end up having a couple-hour chat in the morning. And we're just kind of like talking about dating and relationships, talking about our lives, talking about our experiences. And then somehow, later in that afternoon, I text her again. "Hey, what are you doing?" She goes, "Not much." And we got on a phone call. We end up talking for 3 hours. So now it's 2 days in a row, speaking 5 hours one day, 5 hours the next day. And I'm like, God, I really like this person. So next thing I know, the next morning, I shoot her a text message. "How's your day going?" She responds back. We get on a phone call in the morning. We talk in the evening again for a couple hours. We accumulate another 5 hours, and we're both really liking each other. We're enjoying each other's company. We're enjoying each other's personality. And in that, we were sharing a lot of vulnerable things about ourselves. And when I say vulnerable, we were sharing about our past relationships. We were sharing about our fears, our insecurities, our personality, that sort of thing. This goes on for 10 days. And by the time the 10th day rolled around after that first meeting, and I'm not calling it a date, I'm calling it a meeting. We were both like, God, we both like each other, like we're good friends. We should hang out one day. And I said, coincidentally, I'm going to be driving in your neighborhood. Now, I want to share with you something, folks. I'm feeling neutrality after our first meeting, but we began chatting with each other little by little, and I found myself getting immensely attracted to her. I'm like, God, I'm finding her immensely attractive. Now, by the way, she's an attractive woman. This had nothing to do with looks, and I want to share why I believe I wasn't attracted to her at first in a minute. Okay, so we decided to meet up to have a drink. And I came to her place and I told her up front, I go, "I'm feeling really a lot of attraction for you." And she said the same thing. So I went to her place. We were going to have a drink at her place. And next thing you know, I just reach over and give her a kiss. Now, in all fairness, I felt like the invitation was there. There was we had built up all of this conversation. We built up all of this interesting connection with one another. And from that kiss on, it's like, oh my God, all of a sudden, everything changed. So I'm here to say, no spark from the very beginning doesn't necessarily mean it's a deal breaker, because we have to be, number two, we have to watch the danger of chasing lightning bolts, Instant fireworks can be fun, but they can also blind you to red flags. The slow burn often lasts longer. So in this connection that we were spending, and we had because we were connecting at a friendship level, we weren't in the confines of the pressure of dating. We shared from our hearts. We shared about who we were, like two people that were friends. And I've seen some people fall really hard on a first date thinking they built friendship with someone, only to realize 2 months later that they're incompatible with one another. In our particular case, we built a friendship before the kiss. So we have to be careful chasing lightning bolts. And let me explain why. And this is something I learned now that I've experienced this is, if I look at my last two relationships, many of you have been following my channel know, and some of you can relate to this, I'm an anxious attachment style. If you're not familiar with the book, Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, I highly recommend checking it out, because in this book, I am known as an anxious person, and my pattern has been to choose avoidant women. I am highly attracted to avoidant women for whatever reason on an energetic level. They are like a magnet to me. I'm not a magnet to them. I am magnetized to those types. Now, there's nothing wrong with an avoidant person. It's just a different attachment style. And what I found is lightning bolt can oftentimes mean it's an involuntary response to an insecure attachment style. Can someone write that down? That lightning bolt, that intense chemistry can be an involuntary response to an insecure attachment style. And that's what I was experiencing in that moment, was an insecure attachment style, or in those previous relationships. But for whatever reason, I wasn't insecurely attached to this person. And because of that, I was in a state of neutrality. Now, why is this important? Because I want you to understand the third factor, how curiosity fuels connection. How curiosity fuels connection. When you genuinely want to know someone's story, their thoughts, and their dreams, you create intimacy that can turn into attraction. Let me repeat that. When you genuinely want to know someone's story, their thoughts, their dreams, you create intimacy that can turn into attraction. She became more and more attractive to me as I got to know her personality, as we were able to share at a really deep friendship level. And I even remember one night she had asked me a question that no one had ever asked me before, and it made me look at her differently. There's something about curiosity. There's something about how curiosity fuels connection. And when someone is genuinely curious about you, that can elevate attraction. You see, folks, we have been so indoctrinated in believing that attraction, entertainment, romance, and physical connection leads to relationship success. In fact, we oftentimes hyper focus on the physical attraction and being entertained by a person. I've heard women tell me, if a man doesn't entertain me on a date, I wouldn't ever consider another date. That's all ego-based. It's not heart-based. And so when you're operating by the need to be entertained, the need to be romance, whether you're a man or woman, you're setting yourself up for potential relationship failure. Because I'm here to say from personal experience, that genuine connection is about connecting at a friendship level. And by the way, you need the physical level too, but I'm here to say the friendship level can actually grow attraction, because number 4, emotional safety as a secret ingredient. Emotional safety as a secret ingredient. When someone feels relaxed, seen, accepted, that's when their best self shows up. And that's when chemistry oftentimes blooms. I'm going to repeat that. When someone feels relaxed, seen, accepted, that's when their best self shows up, and that's when chemistry can bloom. So yes, chemistry can grow, attraction can grow. You know, it's funny. She laughed at my awkward joke instead of judging it, and I instantly felt more drawn to her. This is little by little. When we were building emotional safety with one another, we were drawing closer to one another at a heart-centered level instead of the performative level we're oftentimes used to in our current dating environment, because it hyper focuses on attraction, entertainment, romance, and physical connection, and not enough heart connection. And whether you're a man or woman, why men and women can be late bloomers in attraction. I know you've heard that men are visual creatures, and that's certainly true, but some men don't register their feelings right from the get-go. Some women don't register their feelings right from the get-go. And then when they experience a person's kindness, humor, presence over time, that's when it hits us like a freight train. Do you realize up until about 50 years, or excuse me, up until about 30 years ago, most everybody fell in love with someone that they already knew. They were already in their environment. When I say fell in love, they became attracted to someone over a period of time. And today we sadly have this grand expectation of instant chemistry. And if there isn't instant chemistry, we oftentimes dismiss a person. There's late bloomers to attraction. I didn't realize how much I liked this person until I became comfortable after a tough day. During those 10 days that we spoke, we shared a lot of personal things about each other because we were developing a friendship. And I was having a bad day, and I shared it with her, and her empathy, her kindness, her care truly made a difference for me. Now, I'm going to tell you number 6, how a shared experiences create spark. Certainly spending regular time together, doing new things that build trust and laughter and comfort, which stirs up the physical and emotional connection. But in our particular case, we shared a lot of the same experiences. We shared mutual friends. We shared activities that were so aligned with one another as we started to share them. In fact, I was talking to a client today. She met a man years ago on MySpace. Does anyone remember MySpace? She met a man on MySpace, and it turns out that they're both deadheads. And in this shared experience of being a deadhead, they began to grow more and more attracted to one another. And lastly, number 7, the hope in letting attraction grow. You know, it's interesting. When I had this date and I put her in a state of neutrality, it wasn't a no, it's just neutral. I put her in the friend zone. She put me in the friend zone. We put each other in the friend zone. But we were curious enough to go, I like this person. I'd like to get to know them. And in the hope, I think on some unconscious level, I was hoping that attraction would grow. And maybe she intuitively felt the same. When you stop putting so much pressure on the first date spark, you open the door to something deeper. And sometimes that love that starts slow ends up being the one that lasts forever. While I have no idea of knowing whether or not this relationship will go the distance. I got to tell you something. We've in the last almost 3 months, we physically had seen each other almost 40 times. I mean, it's almost every other day or every other day type of thing. We spend a lot of time together. We spend weekends together. We talk about, there's 3 things we talk about regularly. How did we get here? Where are we? And where are we going? Can someone write that down? How did we get here? That's talking about our past. Where are we? That's living life in the present. And where do we want to go? We have continual conversations of where we'd like to see this relationship go. Ladies, if you find yourself in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to talk about the future, then you've got to ask yourself, is this person worth investing in from a future perspective? If you're not actively, if 2 people have been physically intimate, in other words, the penis has gone inside the vagina, folks, okay? Then you have every right to talk about where you want this to go. If you're seeking a life partnership-based relationship, look, if you're seeking casual, if you're only in it for the short run, then you don't have to adopt any of what I'm shared with you. Just follow whatever feels right for you. But you know what, Matt? What I've recognized that when you're with a really good friend, you don't have fear around, how did we get here? Where are we and where do we want to go? A friend wants to talk to you about that. And let me just say this. We have amazing sexual chemistry too. The sexual chemistry is off the charts because we have intellectual connection, we have emotional connection, we have spiritual connection to also contribute to the now physical connection, and that includes sexual as well. So you have great person, but no chemistry. Should you see them again? The short answer is I'd give it a shot. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Folks, is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on Instagram and all my social media, and you can get my dating vows all listed below.